Instructions for accessing subtitles in a language other than English are included on our board meetings webpage as well as in the description below. Instrucciones para acceder a los subtítulos en un idioma que no sea el inglés se incluyen en nuestra página web de reuniones de la Junta, así como en la descripción a continuación.
All right, welcome. This is Wednesday, November 9th, and I am calling to order the regular Ross Valley School District Board of Trustees regular meeting. It is 6:02 p.m., and our first order of business is closed session. We have two items on our closed session this evening: conference with legal counsel for anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9, subdivision D 2 or 3. Special education program dispute with two cases: student ID 430-992-3216 and student ID number 853-301-0158, and a conference with our real property negotiators regarding 199 Porteous Avenue. We do not have any public here this evening, so we don't have any public comment regarding our closed session agenda items. So I will now recess us into our closed session. All right, welcome everyone. It is 7:05, and I am going to reconvene us back into open session. It's Wednesday, November 9th, as I said, at 7:05, and this is the Ross Valley School District Board of Trustees regular meeting. We are a full board except for one of our trustees. Ryan was not able to be here this evening, so he's the only trustee who's not here this evening. And for those of you listening to us on YouTube, we have moved back to the district office due to setup activity at the school and event scheduling at the auditorium, so at Wade Thomas. So we are back in the district office. As such, we are still gathered here at the district office on the unceded ancestral lands of the Coast Miwok people of present-day Marin and southern Sonoma counties, and we honor with gratitude the land itself and all of its ancestors, past, present, and emerging. This month, before we move forward with our first section of our meeting, which is our procedural items, and before we say our Pledge of Allegiance, I wanted to also acknowledge this month, many of our students and teachers are preparing this month in November for Native American Heritage Month. And so just wanted to take a moment to reflect on that before we say our Pledge of Allegiance, that Indigenous Peoples Day, which is October 8th, and the Native American Heritage Month is a time for us to celebrate rich and diverse cultures and traditions and histories and the important contributions of Native people, as well as an opportunity to acknowledge the ways in which tribal citizens have had to work hard to overcome very unique challenges the Native people have faced, both historically and currently in the present. It's a month-long celebration that began in 1976 when a Cherokee Osage Indian named Jerry C. Elliott High Eagle authored Native American Awareness Week legislation, and it was signed into law by President Gerald Ford, which established the first historical week of recognition in the nation for Native peoples. Last year, in 2001, was the first time that October 11th, which was Indigenous Peoples Day, was recognized as a national holiday. It had been recognized back in 1992 and 1994 by Berkeley and Santa Cruz counties, but it was the first time last year that it was recognized nationally. So with that recognition and in honor of this month's cultural celebration, I would welcome those of you who would like to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we will adopt or review the agenda and the time allocations, and go ahead and we'll need to adopt the agenda before moving forward. Is there anything with respect to the agenda colleagues want to clarify? Nope. Okay. I'll entertain a motion then to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Leslie?
Aye.
Marie?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
Shelley? Aye. All right, we have an agenda and continue to move forward. Our next procedural item is a report out from our closed session. We can report out from our closed session that we unanimously accepted the recommendation of staff to approve the special education, the resolution for the special education program dispute. So for two cases, that was student ID 430-9923-216 and ID number 853-301-0158. So that's what I have to report out from our closed session. We now have the moment in time for comments regarding items that are not on the open agenda. So if there's anyone here in the public who would like to speak to any items that are not on the open agenda, we have 3 minutes at the podium for items that are not on the agenda. Come up to the podium and give us your name and association.
Kanan and Alton. I just was hoping that at some point soon we could get an update on the property appraisal, which was approved August 23rd. We haven't really heard much about it. I understand these things take time, but I don't know that the public has any information on who the appraiser is and how they were chosen or what the timeline is. Because there's been a lot of discussion about below market value or market value, so it seems pretty critical to the conversation to know where we are on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Seeing no other public comments on non-agenda items, we'll go ahead and move on to board announcements as part of our communications section. Are there any board announcements? Again, these are not about committees, but general board announcements. Rachel?
I was busy this last couple of weeks. I visited Hidden Valley for their fun run. It was cool because they actually, instead of a run like they normally do, they had like an obstacle course. So the kids were running around an obstacle course, which was kind of cool. I went to the Wade Thomas fun run, and it's interesting to see how the different schools were doing them. That was really cool. Principal Harris was running a lot with his children, so I was surprised, but it was really cool. I went to the Yes fundraiser at Creekside, the Hats Off for Yes event. It was really crowded. There were a lot of hats being sold. People were getting pizzas from Creekside, so that seemed to be a really good event. I went to a CSBA seminar on Saved by the Bell. It was a seminar about school safety and kind of just different things you could do to protect your schools. And I talked to Marcy about it. It seems like a lot of it was stuff that she was already very familiar with, but as a trustee, it was new to me, so that was kind of helpful. I also went to the White Hill Middle School Choir Masquerade performance, and I had never been to that event before. My daughter got extra credit for going, so we obviously all went, and it was really fun just to see all the kids singing, and they were all in costumes, and there's just a lot of talent to see. It was really fun.
So, any other announcements? No. Okay. And we do have some correspondence, and as always, that correspondence is posted in our board documents for all of us to read, as well as for if any of the public is interested in the correspondence that we get. So just noting that the correspondence to the board is there. Those items. Yep. All right. Well, let's move on to our presentation action item then. We have one item tonight, which is a discussion, information, and an action. So I will go ahead and turn. It's the recommended approval of a resolution authorizing the formation of and selection of members for a real property advisory committee, otherwise known as a 7-Eleven committee that we've discussed in the past, in compliance with Education Code sections 17388 and 17389. So staff wants to do a presentation for us.
Sure, thanks a lot. So at our October 3rd meeting, the board did approve the resolution authorizing the 7-Eleven process. And so, and then we started working on getting, as the board approved then on October 12th, and we have Bryce Chastain here with us this evening with legal counsel, ALRR, who will be facilitating that process for us. And so if there are any questions that I can't answer or Chris can't, then of course Bryce is here for that. Mm-hmm. And so as we've expressed numerous times at our Deer Park Working Group meetings, as well as at our board meetings, the district is committed to moving this process along. And although we ended up not being able to have a regular agenda item, we were able to schedule the special meeting. So that kind of got us back on track with the timeline that we are working from and hoping that we're able to stay on. So we're very, very pleased that tonight, although it looked like we may have had another unforeseeable event occur when we did not receive enough applications by the Monday at 7 a.m. November 7th deadline for the applications. We subsequently then reopened the process, notified all of our families and staff through our Parents Square. We also contacted, again, the towns of San Anselmo and Fairfax to see if they would run another item in their newsletter, and then we updated our website. And so then we luckily, that was open until we had received the number of applications that would then get us to be able to have all 7 of the statutory criteria or categories represented by members of the committee. And so luckily that came in really quickly. If it hadn't by this evening, then we would have just provided a brief update, pulled the agenda item, and we would likely then have needed to have scheduled either a special meeting at the point where those applications came in that were representative, or at our next meeting on December 14th. Luckily, we didn't have to do that, and we're able to then put that together for tonight's meeting. And so, let's see. We did receive a total of 16 applications, and of those, 7 were selected to form the committee. Chris Carson, our CBO, and I reviewed the applications submitted, and I've identified a list of recommended committee members for board consideration and hopefully approval, so that we are able to continue on and move forward without delay. We decided on having a lean committee membership to allow for easier scheduling of meetings, to support the efficiency of the committee's charge, and to provide for the ability for them to do their work most expeditiously, as the district is committed to the work as that we've been engaged with the Fairfax San Anselmo Children's Center since May of 2022. And great news is that of all the 16 total applications received, we were thrilled that we were able to provide for broad representation of our community. And so our community in the Ross Valley School District, as we all know, is made up of the towns of Fairfax and San Anselmo. And that there was, with those 7 members for forming this 11, because as you know, we could have up to 11 members on the committee, that all 7 categories that were required in statute are represented. We would have recommended a larger committee size if needed to ensure that there would be representation from all 7 categories, and we were able to do so with fewer. Again, in accordance with Education Code, the committee shall consist of not less than 7 nor more than 11 members, and shall be representative of each of the following. And so those are up on the screen, but I'll review them. And I know we've reviewed these before, but just the ethnic, age group, and socioeconomic composition of the district, the business community, such as store owners, managers, or supervisors, landowners or renters, with preference given to representatives of neighborhood associations, teachers, administrators, parents of students, and persons with expertise in environmental impact, legal contracts, building codes, and land use planning, including but not limited to knowledge of the zoning and other land use restrictions of the cities or cities and counties in which surplus space and real property is located. And within those, we needed to be sure that each of the elements of the categories were represented through the applicants. Where there was only one applicant to represent a particular category or criteria, I'm going to use them interchangeably. Example, the teacher, administrator, and the group of 18 to 39-year-olds. That person was selected to be on the committee. And where there were more applications across more than one category or criteria, Chris and I took into consideration of ensuring there was an overall balance representing the communities of our district and all the elements in the 7 categories or criteria to ensure that as many categories were covered as possible. We also reviewed the applications to be sure that at least one representative on the committee specifically stated that their purpose was for supporting the Children's Center. And one application did specifically state, and this is just quoted from their application, they would like to be part of the problem solving for the Children's Center to be able to stay in our community. The service they give changes lives. And that, of course, is something that we've acknowledged many times too, is the value of the Children's Center. So of those selected to serve on the committee, so in the area or category 1, the demographics, we have 3 Fairfax and 4 San Anselmo community members, 1 from the 18 to 35 age group, and again, there was only one applicant in that age range, 4 in the 40 to 65 age range, and 2 in the 66 plus. And then of the other element of the demographics, one of the members has listed 2 or more races, 1 declined to state, and 1 listed white. And then in the the socioeconomic status, or the mean income of Marin County, which is what we looked at, was there are 5 who were above and 2 below in that representation. And in the category 2, which is from the business community, there are 2 representatives. And category 3, all 7 checked the box as being a landowner or renter. And in category 4, we did have 1 teacher apply, so that teacher made it on to the administrator. And let me back up to the teacher. So we did reach out to ensure that we had representation from our current teachers of the district. There were no applications, but when we received one from a retired teacher from the Ross Valley School District, we checked with Bryce, is this okay? Can this check the box of teacher? And it is allowable. So we were able to move forward with that. 1 administrator, and in category 6, parents of students, there are 2. And in category 7, those are persons with expertise in all those areas listed in category 7. There are 2 persons. And so tonight before you is for review and consideration of Resolution 09-2223, authorizing the formation of and selecting the membership of a real property advisory committee, otherwise known as 711 committee, in compliance with Education Code sections 17388 and 17389. And just want to be sure that you all had a chance to be able to review the resolution. We were able to get this finalized and put up today roughly around, I think, 3 o'clock. And then any questions that you might have?
Are there any questions for clarification? We'll do what we normally do, or questions for clarification, then go out for public comment, and then bring it back up for any further discussion.
Clarification. I think the list is very clear, so that helps.
Yeah, and that was
editing some.
Yeah, we wanted to make sure that listed in addition to the person's name were the categories. Yeah,
I do appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have, Teresa, do you have the collected, if anybody hasn't turned in
Public comment?
public comment forms. We can go ahead and take those.
Nobody but Lisa.
Nobody but Lisa. Okay, so we just had one public comment form. Okay. All right. Then we will now go out for public comment. 3 minutes for public comment.
There were no cards submitted.
There were no cards submitted. Oh, it was just the previous one. There's
It
no
was just-
public comment.
Okay.
Okay. So we don't have any public comment on this item.
Back to discussion then.
So we can bring it back. If there is any public comment, if anybody changed their mind and wants to make a public comment.
I guess I would just like to ask about the decision to weight the committee heavier to San Anselmo than Fairfax, given the incredible relevance to Fairfax of this committee.
The two towns that comprise the school district are San Anselmo and Fairfax, and with having broad representation, a representative of the community, San Anselmo was larger. So there was one more member from the town of San Anselmo.
Any other discussion from the board? I mean, I know that as you stated, our goal is to continue to move this process forward, and that it was a process of opening it, didn't have enough to cover all of those, and so had to reopen it. So I appreciate you going back out to the towns, and to the
Unfortunately,
community.
there
and
were
probably
run.
some in the process and that kind of stuff. Oh, they'll probably now run it in the newsletters, but covering all the bases there just to, again, keep that process moving forward. And as you said, Marie, all the details of
Yeah,
letting
it's
us
there.
know
So I like the table, the
How-
table looks this way.
the
so
table
there,
and-
yeah.
and how it's covered.
I just had a question. There's 7 people. Like, how do you know that all the schedules are going to line up? Because you're going to need all of them, right?
Yes, and that's one of the reasons of that we did go with the lower number of 7 is because they do have to coordinate all of their schedules for the meetings. And as we are hoping to move our process along and move forward, fewer people means fewer schedules to coordinate.
Faster.
And that's going to be your job moving forward, correct?
I mean, that was the idea with the leaner committee. 7 people, we can probably get into a room more readily than 11 people. So that's the hope.
No question.
Wesley, anything?
Nope.
Seems well covered. All right.
I'm just glad we were able to convene a committee so quickly.
Yeah.
And also do appreciate the thoroughness of the resolution. So we are then looking at resolution 092223, which
It
authorizes the committee, the formation of,
and
as
the
well as the
membership.
membership of.
Okay.
All right.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to approve the resolution 092223, authorizing the formation of and selecting the members of the 711 committee in compliance with Ed Code 7388 and 17389.
I'll second the motion.
All right. We have a motion and a second, and we'll do a roll call vote. Marie?
Aye.
Wesley?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
And Shelley, aye. All right.
All right.
We'll keep our process moving forward, and
You can
you
schedule
will
meetings
you will
out.
now begin to start your work. I know we've got a couple of holidays, but hopefully we can get in touch with everybody, and again, keep us going
We
forward.
did list, if I can add, the a potential schedule on the website.
Okay.
So which, when we were advertising, then we did ask people to go take a look at the website.
Great.
So hopefully they have a sense of
How-
what the possibility might be. So maybe those will work for everybody. And then we'll be able to definitely convene them quickly.
Okay. Fingers
Okay, good.
crossed.
Wonderful. Report back.
Great. All right.
Who's on the committee?
It's
In the resolution, sorry.
yeah. So
We could put
The-
it back. Yeah.
So for anybody who's out there listening or looking for it, it's all in the documents on the board docs here. And we will post that. And there will also be updating the website. So we
Yes.
will have, so the 7-Eleven committee will have, it's a Brown Act committee, and it will have all of the information continue to be posted on the board website where the currently is posted. So that information will continue to be posted there for everyone to look at.
And we hope to get the website updated tomorrow.
Okay, great. And we'll have the website updated hopefully by tomorrow. Okay, then we can move on to item F, which is the consent actions. We actually have 11 items on consent.
Yeah.
Most of those are some of our standard annual and regular items for business and financials. Updates to our board policies that need to be updated. Any questions, or was there any?
Number 10 and 11 made me really happy to see those
Yes,
back.
I know,
I'm
I
so
know.
happy to see Walker again.
Yeah.
We're very excited, and so are the kids and the families. Yeah, very excited.
I had just a quick procedural question. I know I've been on the board for a while. When we are approving the field trips, is that board policy requirement for us to approve, or is there a statutory requirement through California Ed Code that we do
Our
that?
board asked many years ago, so it is part of our board policies that all of our overnight field trips are approved by the board.
Okay, so that's a board
Yes.
self-imposed policy for
It's
doing that.
part of our overnight field trip policy, and that's where, when that was brought to the board, it was, the board wanted to be able to.
Okay, okay.
So some districts don't do that, but in our district, because kids are off campus and overnight, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's just something that we do here in Los Angeles.
Okay, all right. Well, good to know.
Good to know kids are going to go to Bear Creek.
Yeah, it's good to know. Okay, so we've got 11 items on our consent. Unless there's anything that we need to pull or, no? Entertaining.
I don't know if there are any public comments. I don't think
Oh.
there are.
Yes, no. Actually, just for those of you who are listening, we now only have one person left in our audience for public comments. So if I get a little bit, if we don't have public comment, I will look out into the audience at our one audience member and see if we have public comment, but we do not have public comment on any of our consent actions.
So I'll go ahead and move the consent agenda.
Go for it.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second, and we'll vote. Wesley,
Aye.
Rachel,
Aye.
Marie,
Aye.
Shelley, aye. Alrighty, on to board business. The committee updates and reports from trustees. Who would like to start? I know we've got more action going on.
I can start with JLAC by acknowledging that I took some notes this morning at 7:30 or 8:30 it was, and I left them at my desk. So they are very well written. They are somewhere else. So because you were at that meeting and you too, so let's just recollect. So what was actually quite interesting this morning, and I don't know if you were at the beginning of the meeting, you may not have been, like, we kind of spent maybe like 20 minutes on a general update on the election, which was not necessarily that relevant to just education. So there was just some general comment about that, and I was already very tired. So I was like, okay, I don't really need all of that. A part of the Prop 28 on art and music.
The art and music funding, yes.
So that one
Cool.
is a big one. So bravo to that, and that definitely is something relevant.
And there's a lot of reporting requirements related to it.
Correct.
Yes.
So we will probably have more to talk about all of that when we really look into all what's associated with that. We also heard about the fact that, and I don't have the exact numbers here, but the revenue projections were for this year were higher than what's actually happening. Mm-hmm. So we're not really getting good news from Sacramento, which is, and I can't remember the exact number, and I'm happy to send a little kind of note about the exact number we talked about. But what that means is that we shouldn't expect next year to be as generous as this year. And I'm not going to.
They remember I mentioned the COLA. They were hoping that the COLA wasn't going to get
correct. So then what we need to read between the line is a pre-announcement that the budget that's going to be presented in January, where some of us will be there at those workshops in January. We shouldn't expect some kind of great big money coming next year. And the recommendation was given to us, and I want to make that very clear, because I heard it loud and clear, that whatever we got this year as being exceptional money is indeed exceptional money, and that we shouldn't be expecting so much generosity next year. So whatever money we have this year, we need to make it last. They're not saying you put everything in your reserve and you don't spend it. That's not what they said, but they said be careful about that because there is indication that next year's budget is not going to be as generous as this year was. That I heard that loud and clear. And what else? You saw me in that meeting, so I was there, definitely, right?
Yeah, I think that was most of,
that was
there was a lot
that
of
was
the,
a big one.
the election coverage and then.
Yeah, exactly.
like you said,
The rest was election coverage, which I think you don't,
There was conversation around how many people could fit in a conference room in Sacramento.
Yeah.
Because of the legislative.
That's what I mean.
in-person
A little
legislative.
bit of noise this morning on JLAG, which was not as much content as in general, because so every year the JLAG group goes to Sacramento in February, and that was this big deal about organizing that, and that's not been happening for the last few years for good reasons. So because it's the first year we should go back there in person, and then the capitals seem to have changed their buildings.
Yeah.
And therefore, what used to be big meeting rooms that were available for everybody to meet there are not available anymore. So it's just a lot of kind of, honestly, JLAC noise that was not that critical to report here. It's JLAC business. I do look forward to hear more about what's going on in January. And I think we all, at this point, are kind of waiting for the January update. You see what I'm saying, Chris? That we are so close to January now that we want to hear what the governor has to say in January.
The only other thing I also remembered was that the governor, they were tracking a bunch of bills that were making their way through
Legislation.
through that, actually some of which got a lot of support, but when they hit the governor's desk, he tended to just do a veto on every single bill that had ongoing spending connected to it, regardless of how much support they had, which is an interesting just perspective on what's coming, what may be foreshadowing for the future of, in some ways, I wonder if it indicates that there's going to be less of that individual programmatic, programmatic carve-outs.
Which shouldn't be a bad idea, to be honest. Yeah.
So that's not necessarily a bad thing, because maybe the money will be more general spending that districts will have control over. But that was the only other thing I remember.
Yeah, no, good point. So that was JLAG. There was I attended also the school roll. I'm looking here because I'm so tired. I was in meetings yesterday for 14 hours. I'm just tired tonight. School roll, beautiful event put together at this very nice little kind of garden plaza inside of the school next to MCOE, part of the school that they have on campus there. There was a very good representation of all the district, a mix of trustees and superintendent and a couple of CBOs there. It was definitely a good turnout. This is the last Schools Rule public event where there was an acknowledgement and a thank you to Mary Jane Burke. And you might have seen emails and communication around the fact that Schools Rules is creating a special fund for to acknowledge her work, and there is already $1 million in the fund, and so it's very some big matching happening. So that was also a lovely way to start saying goodbye to Mary Jane, which is the topic of the entire year is going to take to say goodbye. So the community will say we have a lot of those. So that was lovely, and I attended a couple of another. What was that? Meaning last week we were elected. It's kind of what's that? MS, oh gosh.
Marin County School
Board Association. Yes, we were electing 2 new members. Not big impact on us right now. Yes, okay. There was. See, I'm too tired to even report back.
Probably chairing.
Nothing to worry.
Okay, great.
It's what I can report. I was there. I attended. I represented. I voted. I was there. That's probably part of what I'm so tired. I showed up there.
I
think what I have.
Go ahead.
Let's see. I this morning before the JLAC,
oh gosh,
even earlier, attended the efficiency and effectiveness subcommittee of Marin County School Board Association group. Mainly that group is focused on shared services, many of which are provided by Marin County Office of Education, but some of them are shared, just shared services. Quite a bit of that conversation. So they've put together a list of, some 30 some odd items, everything from some of the special education services, transportation, joint software for finance, accounting kinds of things. So a lot of different shared services. The career technical education services. There's a number of them. A lot of the conversation over the past couple of meetings has focused on school district unification, consolidation conversations that they formed originally with there's so many school districts and why, and does there need to be that question? There was recently, I don't know if you all read, but there was recently a Marin Voice article, a Marin Voice written that was talking about the intersection of school segregation and equity issues and integration or consolidation of school districts, or the lack thereof. Because most of the conversation around district unification has focused on cost saving, potential cost savings. So this was a conversation today around the potential improvement of equity and desegregation of district unification. So I thought it was a good conversation. It was kind of an initial conversation. There was a lot of interest in continuing that conversation. And what came up from what I left also thinking was that there was an interest in looking at all of the different ways that districts could cross-pollinate ideas, but also work together with other districts to create student exchanges or student inter-district awareness of different communities by the schools working with other schools. There was an example given of a book event down in Southern Marin between Marin City, Sausalito Marin City School District and maybe the Tiburon School District, where the students in junior high were coming together at a library to do a book event. So there was conversations around not just unification, but other ways that districts might work together for students to get to know each other across districts and across neighborhoods, because our districts are segregated geographically, our neighborhoods. So there was this conversation, but there was also interest in looking at other best practices or districts sharing their equity-based practices. So I thought that might be, and that's going to come back again. So I'm looking forward to bringing some of this work that we do here in this district forward to share with other school districts at that meeting, which I think will be a great cross-pollination. Which also brings me to the other subcommittee is the Parent Guardian Equity Task Force. And I think I had mentioned last time that the large working group, had one of the subcommittees on board policy. So that subcommittee met, I think it was like 5 of us or so, and met and are going to continue to move that process forward. We're looking at the California School Board Association template for an equity policy. TAM Union School District, High School District has a policy, and since our students matriculate into that district, wanting to create some synergy and alignment with that.
Makes sense.
So we're looking at those 2 policies, plus I will be also doing my best to find out whatever else we can find out from other districts out there in terms of their policy or resolutions and that kind of stuff. And then we're going to bring that all together. So that'll be coming forward to us sometime in this year. Our goal, I believe, was, and Marcy, correct me, but our goal is to hopefully have something,
The first reading
for
the board?
Yeah, by the end of this school year.
Well, first reading by our first meeting in May,
So
that we have, which is May 3rd.
Right.
So that we have a number of meetings to go back and get any
Completely
feedback
iron
input.
before
And then,
next school year.
And then also incorporating elements of a racial equity action plan
Yes.
into our equity policy. Right. So it was a really good, robust conversation. And we'll also be getting input from other members of our Parent Guardian Equity Task Force, at large parents and guardians, as well as from all our classified and certificated staff.
And also from the site-based equity group. So each school, each
That'll be the
principal,
parent
right?
groups,
Yeah. So each principal is kind of hosting a site-based equity conversation. So I think it'll be a really good, robust conversation piece, as well as then resulting. And the other part that I was really appreciative of was a real focus on it being actionable and clear. So it actually provides guidance, that we're not looking at creating a big long thing that sits in a drawer, but it's actually something that we can use as guidance and as a check and balance, to look at, what is when we're making decisions. So hopefully it'll be a tool for us to use when we're making decisions, to be able to reflect back on and say, okay, let's look at this decision through the lens of the equity policy that we approved, and see how it resonates with that. So that was that update.
And to make sure to bring to fruition our racial equity mission statement.
Yes, which is, that was the other part, was that there's already been so much done that it's really a matter of putting it into this format. So we're not starting from square one. Yeah. All right, Rachel?
Yeah, so I went to a couple meetings. I went to the guest board meeting on October 13th, which is a really long time ago.
Yeah.
Our next meeting's tomorrow. So I'm like, half this was probably a little out of date. For October, we had an art update from the teachers, who was present, Nicole. So she told us a little bit about White Hill and what the students there are doing. They were working on, the 7th and 8th were working on like negative and positive space and using X-Acto knives. And she was like, props to the teacher who's doing that, the kids and like knives. But apparently, it's been fine. The digital art students are working on chair designs. And so they have to determine like pattern, texture, and they are also working with negative and positive space and like contour line drawings. So, and then in 6th grade, the enrichment kids had just finished up their first cycle. So I think there's another group that have come in now. And they've worked on various things like ceramics, 2-point perspectives, various kinds of drawing. And for October, they were doing all sorts of things involving Hispanic Cultural Heritage Month. And so there's a focus at the elementary level on fiber arts and making serapes. They were doing figure art and collage to represent experiences and focus on social art. And I guess there was a watercolor project that was based on a book called My Name is Alma, and where students painted the letters of their names. And I guess that was like a really beautiful project that the kids were able to do. Family art nights were just held at all elementary schools. I'm so jealous because I loved those when I always had kids who were little. They were such a great thing. It was the first time they've done it in a while, and it was like very wildly popular. There were 4 for each school. They had 4 lesson stations, and the art teachers set up lessons for everyone. And then there was like an explanation of what was being taught in the medium and a description of it. And so like they were able to go around to different stations and get things. And I guess they were held in the multipurpose rooms, and so they were very well attended. The art teachers had a professional development day. They worked with Zoretta Hammond's book a lot, and they're planning classes around culturally responsive teaching. They've emailed various artists of color to see if they'd be interested in speaking to the students about their artwork in whatever medium that they happen to work in. For music, I already mentioned that the choir had the first concert of the year for any of our schools, and that was lovely. The elementary music teachers are going to be having K-1 parents in for music mini demos, so they can see what's going on in the kids' classrooms, and that is the week after Thanksgiving. The new chorus teacher, Amanda Hahn, found a song in the Hindi language that's written by an Indian American music teacher to honor Diwali. And the music department has added that to their winter sing-along collection of music that they sing every year when they have those events. So they were really excited to find just more things to honor when they're doing that celebration at every school. For theater, this is probably a little bit out of date now. They were starting signups for Manor, but I'm pretty sure they're done with that now. They're doing Newsies. They're the first ones up for our theater group. Mm-hmm. Wade Thomas is doing Matilda Jr., and they're in the middle of signups or might be finishing that now. Brookside is doing The Musical Adventure of Flat Stanley. Hidden Valley is doing Miley Chase and the Science Ace, and then White Hill is doing High School Musical. So So those are kind of on the schedule. They've got a committee that goes through and does review of all the scripts now, and they're looking for, the roles. They're looking for culturally sensitive things. They're looking for other things that are, appropriate for kids that are our ages. And so that's a great committee that they put together, and they've spent a lot of time and effort finding things that are appropriate for our children and that they'll, have fun playing. And then let's see, the production status. White Hill is preparing for their first performances for the winter play, which is the 12 Huntsmen, and so those are in full swing. Kids start soon. I'm not exactly sure the timing of when those shows are going on yet. And so let's see, for events, they had the Hats Off to Yes night, and so that was also well attended. And then their winter fundraising campaign is kicking off soon. The financial information I have is probably a month out of date now. But they, at the point when I talked to them or when I was at the meeting, they were at $275,000 at that meeting. And they said with the tiered giving that we've done, it was kind of just to help open it up so more people felt comfortable giving at what levels they were comfortable at financially. And they said it looks like a perfect bell curve where people are donating all across, but the majority are actually donating at the ask level. And so that was all I had for the yes. I think Marcy might have a little more up-to-date information, which she can give us later. And there's also for the family giving campaigns, they've got big signs now that are thermometers that will show where each school is at their school sites, not competitively. So individual schools will have their own thermometer that shows how much was raised so far and then how much percent participation. Mm-hmm. So it's emphasizing the amount, but also, hey, let's get everyone to participate because it is a bell curve. So it's not so much the amount, but making sure that everyone's, participating. And then I also attended the DLAC meeting, which is the District mm-hmm. English Language Advisory Committee meeting. That's run by Eric, and that was on October 19th. And the purpose of the DLAC is to have open communication between the district, the schools, and the families to support the ELL students so they're all, so they can be successful. So we went over information about academic support for students, the reclassification process to assess student progress as they're moving through the English language learner system, and just kind of adjusting their education based on what their level is currently at mm-hmm. after they've been going through it. Let's see, what else? There was just Eric providing some information on contacts at the school, social worker, counselors. He kind of just explained who to reach out to if you had questions about your student's progress, like mm-hmm. contact the teacher, the principal, himself. And then we also discussed connecting parents with ongoing adult education opportunities. The TAM Adult Education is offering English as a second language classes. And they said with enough interest locally here, they would be able to offer it at Archie Williams High School, which would be much more convenient than our families having to go all to like Larkspur for the classes there. I think they said they'd need probably around 40 students interested in that. So it's kind of a high mark, but if there's enough people who are interested, that's definitely something they could try and get over at Archie Williams for our families here locally. And then there was just some discussion about how to improve engagement and attendance at the DLAC meetings. And so we're trying a little more outreach in different mm-hmm. manner to try and get more people to attend. So I think that was pretty much it.
Excellent. Leslie? Any?
I don't have anything.
Okay. And all right. Those are from the trustees. Yeah. Our next item is recognition that we need to approve that our regular meeting in December will be our annual organizational meeting. So we need to establish that this meeting, we need to establish that meeting today as our annual organizational meeting, because that will be the meeting that we have new trustee, and will be the meeting that we reorganize our formal committee assignments. Actually, that's all we have to do is the chair and the
president, clerk, and the representative to the MCSBA.
Thank you.
School
That's
Board.
what-
Which is
that
me
was-
when I'm not too tired.
That was
to
the
say
one you.
word.
So
This week,
just
I
those
show
three.
up, I promise, I'm there.
Right. So this meeting is just those 3 positions, and then it's the latter meeting for reorganizing
In
the other-
January.
In
yeah.
January that we do the other ones.
Yeah, and it is just seems so strange that you have to actually designate the meeting that you're going to do this. But I got a legal update and I was like, what? So,
Okay, so
yeah, so here we are, designating December 14th.
Okay, wait, so for the
we need to approve that?
committees that we're on though, that's at the beginning of the school year, right?
In January.
When we have board elections,
Oh,
then you review them
Okay.
in January.
Okay.
So that any new trustees who join have the opportunity. So the committees will spend some time getting Chris Landels-Cobb up to speed on what are all the committees. And then that way, when we come back in the new year, we'll review the committee assignments. But what we do need to do in December, and there's strict law, and it's in our background language about by when do you have to hold your annual or the swearing in of your trustees in your annual organization.
Perfect.
And just again, we elect those 3 positions, and then the other committees that we all serve on, we just kind of look each other in the eye and figure out who's
Anybody
gonna
do
it.
Rachel has been doing 80% of that. It seems like a good pattern.
So it's a little more casual when we do that internal decision of those committees.
And that, because it's a new trustee and coming on board,
Right.
we'll do that in January for those, okay.
For the committees, yeah.
Quick question, designating December as the meeting for our annual organization, we could make that designation at any time during the
We can,
year.
what I'm gonna suggest that we do is when we approve the board calendar,
Yes.
We'll do it then.
that we
Do
do
it
it
with
at
them.
time.
Okay.
Yeah, instead of being
Because
here
it does
standalone.
allow that, if the board hasn't determined another mechanism to determine the date, then you must follow, and there's difference between a year in which there is an election for trustee and a year in which there is no election.
Got it.
So, but if
No, I
we
think the idea
designate
of coordinating it with the calendar
it makes the most sense.
to do it, and then we don't.
And does that December 14 event must include some kind of celebration from Mr. Wesley here?
It will
I want to make
absolutely,
sure.
and
It may not be on this agenda item. I want to make sure it's peer pressure here.
Then a future board direction perhaps?
Maybe
Okay.
there. It's coming
Okay.
soon, coming soon.
So,
yeah, so we will, as we've done
Yeah.
in past meetings when we have election, we do start off the meeting with all of the seated trustees, and then we do a ceremony, if you will, of the transition, and then anyone, in our case, it's Wesley, will be leaving us after 12?
12 years?
Is it 12 years?
No, 9.
9, okay.
9.
We're giving you an
The
extra
first,
three.
no, the first term was a 5-year term because it got extended by a year, and this term is
Yeah.
a 4-year
Then
term.
4, yeah. So we will
So you
definitely
do
want
swearing
to
in
honor,
and then-
recognize him.
Yes.
And then we will resume the meeting with, as we know, Ryan, who will remain on the board, and Chris Landels-Cobb will be joining us.
And then
Because last time we did that was all on Zoom. Remember?
We
Yes.
did, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was with you,
And
Marie,
we did that
Shelley,
like that
Rachel.
in my
Mhm.
bedroom.
Yeah, I know,
No.
in front of the computer.
I
So I'm
know.
looking forward to it.
Mhm.
Our first.
And I'm very pleased to say that Wesley has agreed to do the honors of swearing in our trustees.
Oh, that's
Yay.
awesome.
So exciting, yeah. I think it'd be a great practice if an outgoing, and even could be shared.
Yeah.
If there are more than
Wow.
one going on.
Fantastic.
At the same time, but I think it's wonderful, so thank you, Wesley.
Sure.
So should one of us make a recommend an approval? Okay. Just let's moving along. I make a motion to approve that we hold our annual organization meeting during our regular meeting on December 14, 2022.
I will second that one. Ooh, I got a second in. No, vote. Marie.
Aye.
Shelley, I, Wesley,
Aye.
Rachel.
Aye.
That shall be our organizational meeting.
Can't
Fantastic.
wait.
All right, then we are on to discussion.
CSBA. Mhm.
Discussion and agreement for the Board of Trustees and Superintendent to attend the California School Board Association Annual Educational Conference for 2022.
And so I apologize for not seeing this. I'm assuming it came in my inbox, but I did not recognize it.
Yeah.
And so thank you, Chris and Teresa, for seeing it on our tickler, and Teresa, thank you, Teresa, for noticing it was on the tickler, so we were able to get it on the agenda in time. So, for tonight's meeting, so the in-person option, there are two options this year. As you might remember last year, there was the in-person option and only a virtual option, but they didn't record it. And it was either going, it was assigned or miss out. So we don't know what the specifics sessions will be on, but what we do know is that they will be on, thought I listed it here.
Date? December 1st through 3rd.
It was some.
So the in-person dates are December 1st through 3rd in the San Diego Convention Center, and this would be, the district would pay if anybody were to want to go in person. And that deadline for registration, for the regular deadline, the rate will increase, but is in 2 days, November 11th. So if anybody is interested in going in person, we would love to know ASAP. And then the on-demand, that's the change this year, which is beautiful because the sessions will be available between December 12th and February 28th. So you can view them, whatever you sign up for, you can view them at your leisure. And they'll be available during that amount of time. And that requires no travel. And it does, of course, cost much less money, of course, without not only the registration fee, but also travel expenses. So if anyone is interested in that, that deadline is December 2nd for the on-demand option. You would need to register by then or the rates will increase.
And what is the actual decision that we need to make?
It would be great if we agree that we would like to attend CSBA this year, either a couple of trustees and me, and or the whole group. I will reach out to Chris as now trustee-elect. She will get to start getting information related to upcoming things, but if she's interested in also attending, we would want to know that. And I did have a conversation with her.
Wow.
Yeah, just letting her know that if that happens earlier today.
But we just have to approve that
If we're interested.
we don't have to like say there'll be 3 or 2
No.
or whatever today.
No,
just
just
that it's
would love
approving
to
that.
know, yes, if anybody is interested, that at least then I know I need to follow up after tonight's meeting with any of you to get your interest of in-person or on-demand.
I think one on demand would be. I don't.
Do we all need to sign up for on demand, or is it like?
Yes, you would need to register individually. The links, I'm sure, are individual specific, and they will be probably coded in my mind that I can't share mine with somebody else.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah.
Only one person per registration.
Got it. And when is the content for that? Is that
Exactly.
already up?
No, it is not.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's like
so
a week after the
okay.
live version.
The content of the live version and the on-demand is not up yet. So
You
we
mean
don't
the
know
list
what
of-
sessions.
The list of sessions
No,
isn't
we
up.
don't know, and I
Yeah.
did,
Well,
I
I know,
must
it's like,
have.
how can I
Wait,
decide?
so you're supposed to register in 2 days, but you don't know
You
which
don't
set. What the
Well,
session-
if I had let you know
No,
back
I
in
haven't.
August when it opened, then yes, you may have registered back in August, but still wouldn't know until it opens.
Okay.
Yeah, and I
Have you
thought,
guys been before?
I went two years ago down to San Diego, but I was presenting.
Yeah.
With our attorney on, but I haven't. And don't they alternate San
Yeah,
Francisco?
between
Right.
San Francisco and
I
San
went to
Diego.
one many years ago before I was a trustee.
I went to San Diego once. I thought it was pretty helpful, and we used to go down once in a while to the city when
Yeah.
you know, as if board members could make it.
and I'm wondering if they're not gonna move it to the every other year option, cause it's the second year in a row that it's being held in San Diego. And so
okay.
I'm thinking that it's likely with the on-demand option, that is for folks who are not interested in traveling. It was more frequent, at least when Rick was here, that the boards did go when it was up in
San
In
Francisco.
San Francisco.
Yeah.
And I
But we don't
remember-
know if that's gonna happen, so if we're interested in making the trip, then of course.
And who knows why?
Yeah.
It's not
Could be
back
for
to
many
that
reasons.
alternating situation. But if people are available, I went. I thought it was helpful.
So did you do the workshops? I mean, 'cause
Oh, yeah.
I'm curious to do this, but I'm also a little bit leery of signing up and being like, sure, let's spend money on something and I don't know what I'm signing up for.
Well, it's really so broad. There's virtually
Exactly.
every category of anything you could possibly want to talk about, and everything from Brown Act all the way through budget, through curriculum, I mean, everything that you can imagine. And I'm sure that there are old syllabuses available on the types of things that are offered. So I don't think you're going to have a lack of finding something.
The on-demand thing sounds like it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I remember when I went, I found you'd have one session with two things that you were interested in. You only could go to one, or one session where you weren't interested at all.
I did find it. I knew I had written it somewhere. So this year's topic areas or strands, as they're calling them, include equity and opportunity, funding and finance, leadership through governance, and well-being and mental health. So those would be the categories of the sessions will be.
Who's going to be their big speaker? They usually have some big speaker.
Let's see, I can
Chris
go to
Carson?
the website.
Chris Carson.
Isn't the woman who wrote the book
That was my joke of the day. That's pathetic. I know, really bad. I know, really.
There are pre-conference activities. Let's see, do they?
I'm guessing what they do is they record the events, and that's what they allow you to to review
agree.
afterwards.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of like the State Bar Convention. It's similar to that, I think.
Yeah. And then you can
Pick
have the
the
whole
categories.
pick
of
the
the
categories,
things,
pick all the stuff that you're interested in.
Right, and then you could click on the materials that they're putting up on their PowerPoint.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
So I know I can't go in person, but I might possibly be interested in the online stuff.
I will pass.
And you'll pass.
I will
already
pass.
went through a whole
I
bunch of
won't-
learning the last
Oh,
year.
exactly. I've been receiving a lot of content over the last year and a half. I would pass for this year. I would love to go in person with a couple of people at some point in San
Yeah,
Francisco.
hopefully if it comes
Because when
back
I
to
went
San
there, at
Francisco.
some point, I went with a trustee of Summerfield City School because she had a ticket that you could bring your special someone. And I was like,
You got
hey,
to-
you know what? I'm going with your special someone, 1+1. So I ended up going there for free 2 days. And she was doing her thing, and I ended up having, my own content thing there. It was really lovely, but part of it was to run into people I know, and we had, lunch with Rick, and it was that part was really cool.
When
And
I
to
was
have
here.
conversation around content you go to and reflect on that. So
Yeah.
I look forward to that happening one time, and if that happened, I would want to go in person.
The one author this year is Tara, or maybe she pronounces it Tara Westover. She's an American author born in Idaho to a father opposed to public education. She never attended school. Her older brother taught her to read, so she is one of the speakers. And then the other
wrote the
one
book
is
Educated.
Brandon P. Fleming. And he is a nationally acclaimed educator and author of Miseducated. His story of struggle, success, and service has inspired millions around the world. An at-risk youth and college dropout turned award-winning educator. And the other speakers will be announced. These are the only two that they've announced.
So those in general, like great content in person, like inspiring. So
I too would
keep
be
the money
interested
for
in the
next year,
on-demand.
okay?
Okay.
I am as
Yeah,
well,
definitely.
because I haven't done this before. So
Yeah.
Put
I'd be
money for
interested.
next year.
I would definitely want to go in person if and when, and if we start to see that it doesn't come back up north, then of course, and we'll definitely plan far in advance. So it's now on the tickler at a different month so that
I don't really know.
I don't miss it again. So I really apologize.
So could we make a motion to approve?
Members of the trustees as well as the superintendent to attend
Yeah.
the CSBA conference
That's the motion.
2022.
Members that choose to. Yes.
What about
That
you?
would be the
What
motion
about you
that I'll
repeat
make.
that?
I'll make that motion.
we're not going to
Okay.
force Marie to.
Anybody want a second?
Me. I'm a second.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Shelley, aye. Marie?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
Leslie?
Hi.
All right. And then we've got our meeting minutes. Next item for October 12th. And again, I'm not going out to the public for public comment because we have one person who hasn't
Shaking her head no.
is shaking it. So we've got approval of the regular meeting minutes for October 12th. Does anybody have any edits or amendments to that October 12th meeting minutes?
I make, no?
Okay.
ready, I make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes for the October 12th, 2022 meeting.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Marie.
Aye.
Rachel.
Aye.
Wesley.
Aye.
And Shelley, aye. Minutes are approved. All right, on to item H, Superintendent Cabinet Report.
Alrighty, well, it's just Chris and me this evening. Chris, do you have any updates you'd like?
I do not have any this evening. I will be speaking a lot at the next board meeting.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be our first
Get
interim
ready.
budget.
Our first interim budget. Okay, doke. All right, we will look forward to that. That'll be our
Would be like on the Wednesday
meeting
after
review,
I
future
present mine the night
topic.
before.
Welcome to the board.
Exactly.
Marcy.
It's always like that. Welcome to the board and let's talk budget right now.
Oh, yeah, great.
There you go. Catch up. So we've had two superintendents chat so far, one at Hidden Valley and one at Manor. And although they weren't well attended, the folks who were there were super appreciative that we offer these. And also at the Hidden Valley, we did talk about figuring out a way to look at how might there be, we schedule it at a time where there might be able to be more in attendance. So we have.
When were they? What time? What was the?
They're in the mornings, right after
Yeah,
drop off.
after drop
They're
off,
in person, yeah. So we're looking at possibly doing a room and Zoom. No trauma, PTSD intended, please. But that is potentially an option for families. Might be more attended. And also, we have 3 more schools to go. And this year we're adding a new kind of a superintendent's chat at Whitehill. We're going to be meeting with the kids. And so John and Mary Claire have a group of students who they meet with during advisory. And so they'll be having us meet with those kids. And this is the superintendent's chats, and cabinet comes along. So it's really superintendent and cabinet. We don't have any particular items on an agenda at all. We just want to hear from those in attendance. They may have questions. They may want to ask why we don't do a specific thing, whatever it might be. It's their time to be with us. Of course, if there is any kind of a lull in the conversation, we will be happy to talk. So one of those spots in particular came up around the budget and around how we're not in community funded status. And so then one of the parents said, it might really be good. I'm trying to understand the budget. I'm really working hard to do that. But a lot of parents, guardians do not understand the budget. So we're talking about doing a recording that then we can send that link out, let folks listen to it, watch it, and then we schedule the conversation so that they can ask questions.
Yeah.
And that when we suggested that at the meeting, the parents said that would be a great way to do
Like a
this.
primer,
So,
right? That would be great.
so Chris and I will be looking
that,
at
send it
that.
to me.
And then also a comment about enhancing our website related to getting headshots of trustees, little bios on the website.
We're going to complain.
And so, and I know that that's something that Sean, we've been talking about. We've been focusing on more student-related, program-related elements for our website, but that is right back up there.
Well, a few
And
years
on the
ago,
tip of-
remember the grand jury wanted that. Civil grand jury.
The
Fair
civil
enough.
grand jury with respect to school boards?
Yeah, wanted all
Fair
boards in the county to have more profile on their elected officials.
I didn't
Okay.
remember
So
that, but thank you.
if that's something that
Yeah.
you guys want to do, I think that would be consistent with what the grand jury wanted to see.
Oh, great.
Um,
I think it would be good. Just to have that, and then
My hair.
and then the other thing that we did,
I'm
which
getting off
we're-
the board just in the nick of time.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what's convenient?
No.
No. I don't either, but
Wesley can
We'll
just
have an
come for the
archive
shots.
of past.
yes, that's what we'll do.
Well, I was pushing for something similar to that on the website, but without pictures.
All right.
All right.
But anyway.
And then the other thing that
Yeah.
we've done to enhance our website is we have added now an anonymous tip line. So we have had one on there, very difficult to find. It was buried. You can't search for it and it pops up. So we wanted it to be prominent on our district website.
Let me
And
ask
we
you this,
also-
if it's hard to find, is it hard to check?
No,
in other
because
words,
when
were
you
there-
complete it, it goes straight into
Got it.
email, and then that email goes to Sean,
Got
and he gets notified. So no, it's not hard to check at all. It's just hard for anybody to find who would like to complete it. And so we also enhanced it so that it is not just focused on bullying, but it is also focused on any type of racism, vandalism, graffiti, destruction. It includes bullying. So whatever any child, if you will, or family member, staff member wishes to anonymously report. Of course, it helps us if we have a little bit more detail to be able to contact, but that's a question on the form. Is it okay if we contact you? If so, please give us your name and your contact information. So that is right there under district and schools. It's a red button. And if you go to each school's webpage, it's also on each school's webpage. Okay. And so that was an enhancement we made. So Cabinet worked on the content. We reviewed other districts' anonymous tip lines to get ideas for how to make ours the best that it can be. And we're going to get the information. We figure if other districts have done it before us, why reinvent the wheel and possibly have something that we love to capture, but we don't. So that's what we've done there. And then another exciting change coming is Roundtable. Yeah. And so really excited about our first Roundtable meeting this year. And as you might remember, Roundtable is the group of representation of each school's parent club, site council, the Yes Foundation, all site administrators, and then Chris and me. And we work on ensuring that the Roundtable agreement, which is related to fundraising and the spending of Yes and parent club dollars, how they go. And so it was really great because I was fully prepared at our first meeting to talk about ensuring that we have an equity lens as we're looking we need to make some necessary revisions to the Roundtable agreement. But parents started asking, you know what, I think it's time. I think we need to really update our Roundtable agreement. We need to take a look at being more community minded and really our school parent clubs focusing on activities and community building events that are inclusive. And so part of the conversation had to do with potentially having a district-wide fundraising arm for parent clubs. And there, of course, would still need to be a site-based treasurer, but with somebody who could run that district-wide, then all of the best things that each of the schools do individually to fundraise would be done at all schools. And so that when one school has a fantastic idea of how to fundraise as well as what to maintain on their parent club's website, that best practice is shared across all schools so that all schools can have that benefit. And so we created a subcommittee. And the purpose of the subcommittee was to come up with a common reporting template so that we could look at what are the mandated expenses per the Roundtable agreement, what are the expenses that a parent club just needs to spend to operate, and then what are the discretionary dollars that they have. And we're going to be coming back at our December 18th. Each school site will populate the template, and then at our November 18th subcommittee meeting, we'll be reviewing it and then seeing closer as we can get to some of the actions. We don't believe this year it won't be our goal to begin the district-wide arm. That will be a future, but if we can all start to focus on building that community and inclusion, and also a sense of through the fundraising, just like Yes changed this year with rather than just the simple ask, but give any amount, and that's been a big push, that would also be what the parent clubs do as well. So that as a family member for a lapathon or a move-a-thon, whatever the site may hold, is that not all families have the ability to go to their office and have a person pledge for their child. And so they have different kinds of jobs that they don't have that opportunity. So how do we ensure that all families feel that they are represented through that? So that's a big change, and it's really exciting, and I'm really happy that we're moving along with that. The talk was really positive about not wanting to spend time at Roundtable meetings wondering why the Roundtable agreement exists for parity across all sites, which is why it exists, but to focus the time on brainstorming and coming together and building community across all schools. So it was just fabulous, wonderful. Yeah. I'm happy to say on the hiring front, We were not able to do a direct hire for our 2nd through 5th grade special day class at Brookside, but we were able to secure a teacher through an agency. And so we have our teacher was able to just arrive this week from Argentina, and she has started getting to know the school, the program, communicating, working with Sarah Hom to do that transition, and Jenny Burt, who has taken over some of the kids. She's a resource specialist. But while we've not had a teacher, there have been some other things put in place to ensure those kids are served. And then we have been able to hire an intervention teacher for Wade Thomas. And we also were able to hire an elementary school counselor. So we have filled both of our elementary school counseling positions. And last but not least, this has been really difficult, but we have 2 PE vacancies at the elementary, and they both happen to have hit Hidden Valley and Manor. And we luckily, through partnership with Sonoma State, they were able to identify a intern eligible candidate who will be ready to begin with us in January. And so we still have the other position that we need to fill, but at least we see a light at the end of the tunnel. It's been extremely difficult for the teachers at both Hidden Valley and Manor to either have to take their own class to do PE, but more importantly than that is to not get their preparation period, because that's what they do when their kids are at PE. So at least we see some light at the end of the tunnel, but really big, huge thank you and shout out to those teachers who are persevering and making the best of this situation.
And the grade school counselor, one of the other things I remembered from the JLAC was that there's the state funding for mental health services. There was a lot more money either coming for mental health services, and I know that
to create a pipeline.
And then I know that staff has been able a couple of times to amazingly apply for certain kind of grant funding from the
Which
state.
we're waiting to hear on the one. We should hear around November 20th for our equity.
Right.
Yeah.
There was that equity one, and so just putting the flag up that there's probably going to be more grant opportunities
Which will be
around mental health.
fantastic, especially because we're utilizing the one-time dollars through COVID funds. We're no longer contracting with Bay Area Community Resources for the elementary counselors. We're doing direct hires. And so we were able to, luckily, Janet Mercer, who was a classified employee with us, but a longtime social worker in the Santa Fe City schools, was ready to go back into her other position. And she was hired, but she's been working with all 4 schools since the beginning of the year. So that other person has started, and they did some overlap and have divided up which schools each of them is going to be working.
Maybe we could get in touch with the legislative group that made that announcement to see if they could give us a heads up on what kind of grants, so that we can let you guys know.
We can probably take a look at the CDE website too.
It was around the pipeline, but I can follow up.
Yeah, that would be helpful, because as our one-time dollars dry up, we believe that the services are extremely critical to our children, and that we need to continue them. So we want to do that. I too attended JLAC and Schools Rule. I did not go to the YES meeting last month, so I don't have anything to add. But you all said it so beautifully, I don't have anything to add there. We already covered the equity subcommittee. And one of the things that came out of our Superintendent's Day meeting is that historically the superintendents will agree on a countywide sub-rate. It has now been determined that no longer will there be any type of agreement, just as we don't reach agreement on what type of increases that we give to our teaching staff, our certificated employees or classified employees. And so some members didn't feel that that was necessary to do with subs either. So a number of districts, as I anticipated when you did approve the increase to the sub rate back in, I think it was July for this school year, it may have been our August meeting, but that some districts are now upwards of $230 a day, and they also have a special rate for Fridays and Mondays. We are not looking at a special rate for Fridays and Mondays, but rather some kind of a special rate for those guest support teachers who commit to working in our schools and they become our regular subs. So we're going to look at it a little bit differently, but we can anticipate, just foreshadowing, that we're going to see the need to regularly revisit the sub rates. as districts do
Correct.
keep going up.
I was going to ask an update on that.
Yeah.
Big deal.
And then the other part is equity, as you mentioned. That was a topic of conversation for sharing. So it's not only part of the E2 conversation, but it was a specific agenda topic that'll be on every single one of our superintendent's meetings to share. And especially for us districts who feed into the Tamalpais Union High School District, is looking at doing something related to feeders with the TAM district so that we have a coordinated, aligned effort in the K-12.
Do those, I think you had mentioned at one point that the feeder districts into TAM district used to get together regularly to just have conversations too, especially so that TAM could help coordinate.
Those meetings don't happen anymore.
They don't happen.
No,
was
there
there any
is
conversation about
coordination
that happening
between
again?
the middle school and R2 Williams specifically.
Mhm.
There is that coordination, but not as
But not
district
among
leaders.
all the middle schools and all
Correct.
at once.
Yeah. That used to be was it Talk 12? I think was the name they called it. But anyway, they haven't had that in years, and there was not talk. I can talk with Tara and just see if that might be of interest. But the bigger interest is ensuring that our kids have continuity from going, because each of the high schools does have a little bit of a different flavor as well. And so to collaborate with, you know,
And they need to collaborate,
yeah.
the three of them.
yeah,
so
they,
that's-
that kind of thing. But it is something that is of interest, but at least we know that there's ongoing conversation between the high school administration and our middle school. Another activity that happened to try to increase the sub pool was a sub fair, if you will. So that occurred today. We did advertise it out to our staff and families, hoping that they might share it with people. But that was an opportunity for folks who are interested to go actually be able to get fingerprinted, fill out the application, do the trainings, all of that on this day, because it is quite daunting. Even though California didn't relax the sub requirements like other states did, there's still a lot of hoops to jump through. And that in and of itself, as we talked about at one of our countywide personnel meetings, is there will be people who start the sub process, but they do not follow through.
Is that all coordinated centrally through MCO?
Through MCO.
MCO,
Okay,
yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
That was one of
Each
those shared
district
services.
is the employer. MCOE is not the employer. They are just the entity that helps to get the subs. That way, the subs do not have to get credentialed for each school district.
Or fingerprinted for
Or
each school
fingerprinted,
district.
yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so they're
Outsourcing.
that one clearinghouse, if you will.
Okay.
So I think that, I just have to go
You
back.
say they don't have to be certificated.
They do have to have the basic skills. They have to have a bachelor's degree. The
Bachelor's
basic
degree.
skills has been somewhat, they don't have to do that, but they do have to have some kind of a basic skills, which then could go for an AP exam that they may have taken in high school and other schools.
AP exam.
The advanced placement
Oh.
exam.
But they have to have a teaching credential, do they?
No,
No.
they do have to get a 30-day sub permit. And so that allows them to teach. Now, it's called a 30-day sub permit, but what it actually allows, because of COVID, is, and this hasn't changed yet, is it allows them to sub for up to 60 days not consecutively, but throughout the course of the year, but they can only sub for a maximum of 60 days for any one teacher assignment. So as an example, if Wesley, you were a teacher and I were your sub, I could only sub for you for 60 days. I could sub 60 days for every teacher in the district.
Yeah, I see.
But that's what the 30 days, so it allows there to be a day-to-day sub. And what also is helpful too is MCOE provides the training for the subs as to what can they expect, when to walk into a classroom, where do they look for lesson plans, how do they
Classroom
follow lesson
management.
plans, classroom management,
Rachel, did you have a question?
No, you answered. She answered.
So I'm hopeful that event today, I know we, I
I've
think
not heard
heard that
about
at
it
least one
yet.
of our parents was interested and they have attended, so. And then we do have another parent who started the process. I sent her over to talk to Lori after our roundtable meeting, and she started, but she's one who just didn't complete it yet. So we're like, get her to go to today's event. So we're hoping that will help increase the total number of subs.
I know.
Just generally speaking, how many subs do do you need on a given day?
So many.
A lot right now, especially because they're
More than 10?
Oh, no, not on any campus, like for instance.
District-wide,
yes.
District-wide.
Mhm. So
Wow.
that's why we put the guest support teacher program in place, is that way, is what happened like at Hidden Valley on Friday, which is when our superintendent's chat was, 3 teachers woke up that day not feeling well, unable to come to school, and there was no way to get a sub at that late date. So the guest support teacher is when the schools can get the regular guest support teachers, then they can deploy that teacher to help support a classroom that's missing a sub. Or if we have like a 1-to-1 aid vacancy, or the 1-to-1 aid is out, then we can help support that student in the classroom by putting a guest support teacher in that classroom. So that's kind of how we're utilizing them, and they're critical. And one of the guest support teachers at Manor, he is providing the PE program. So at least Manor, every day that this sub or guest support teacher can be there, he is helping. So Manor hasn't been as bad off as Hidden Valley as an example in getting their PE classes covered.
Mm-hmm.
But he is only one person, and there were 2, so to cover. So it's not that they're getting their full PE covered.
Have you heard? I had heard talk or rumor that in February the governor or the state was going to remove the COVID emergency regulations or something, which might then repeal things like that extra
60
day.
to 30.
Has there been any other announcements from
I have
NCU or
not.
anybody
No,
else about
it
any
did-
shifts in the COVID stuff from the state?
No, it didn't even,
No.
it wasn't, and that's part of our countywide personnel meetings, is where there information on the horizon, we learn about it there.
Nothing. Okay.
But I haven't seen anything in the newsletters or things, listservs that I subscribe to.
The only
I'm
thing
hoping
that they
it
did
doesn't.
is extend the leave that was granted.
The
Yeah, the
COVID
COVID
leave.
leave.
The COVID
But
leave.
That was the only thing.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
we've heard on the COVID
Okay.
front. But hopefully, because and now with RSV, the respiratory illness,
Right.
we have had a lot of kids and staff out, not just for COVID, but for all those seasonal illnesses that are going
back.
around too.
Yeah. Okay.
If I could just clarify, he didn't give additional time, it was just an extension of the time that
Of
was.
the allotment.
The allotment.
Right.
Okay.
All right, so I think that's catching you up on, oh, I did have to say this though. Remember our last meeting, we were in Wade Thomas and we had to close it?
Yeah.
early
Oh,
because
yeah,
the power went out?
power went
Oh,
out.
yeah, the power
They,
went
they
out.
shut it off deliberately. I think I saw the work crew, and I was making my way
Yeah,
home.
there was down the street.
I think they-
on the street,
Oh,
you're right,
right.
or something.
They
I
were
did
doing
see
work
that.
on
In the back.
PG&E down the street on one of the other side streets.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you,
Well,
but
no,
I think
that's-
we just didn't know it.
Yeah, we had no
I think it
idea
was
that it was going
pre-planned.
to happen.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to also,
were
I
not
didn't get
thinking
to
we
thank
were-
Teresa that night
Yes.
for putting on the reception for all of our milestones and new employees.
Are you right?
And
That was very nice.
certificate of moving to permanent status. And that was, that's a lot of work, so thank you very much. But I think everybody who did come that night, and again, the second year, it was well attended.
Yeah.
It was great.
It was. It was really nice to
so-
meet everybody afterwards too,
Correct.
and get to
Yes.
talk to the teachers and say hi. And it was great.
And our
Was
other
we-
employees, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And we had done enough to close that meeting because there wasn't any action
we were
item.
just
Well,
moving
at
on
the-
to,
we was at the
I
end.
think, committee conversations,
Okay.
No, because we had
No.
gotten through, we had gotten through the
Yeah, we-
minutes.
we
I
were-
think we were starting with cabinet and
Yeah.
superintendent cabinet updates is when it went out. Yeah, so we were
That
able
was
to
it.
continue, or not continue, but we didn't have anything that was not agendized that needed to be carried over till today.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think that's it, and here we are, 8:30.
Any other future board topics? Chris, you had mentioned that the first interim is coming up here at our next meeting.
Which is traditional, it always comes at the December meeting.
Exactly. Any other rotating topic updates from any of the other staff departments or anything we should be thinking about?
No, we just have our annual organization, our swearing in, our goodbyes,
Okay.
yeah.
Alrighty. Well then, with
adjourn.
that, it is 8:30 and we will adjourn our meeting.